This is an NBC Palm Springs special report. Coronavirus facts, not fear. Presented by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us for this NBC Palm Springs special report, Coronavirus Facts, Not Fear. We dedicate this half hour each and every night for in-depth interviews with a range of professionals and experts, because now more than ever, it's vital that we hear directly from our local leaders as we sift through often confusing and rapidly changing information. Let's begin tonight. We have Joe Wallace with us. He's with the Coachella Valley Economic Partnership. Joe, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, for those who don't know, before we get going, can you tell us what the Coachella Valley Economic Partnership is?
Coachella Valley Economic Partnership is the only regional economic development agency in the Coachella Valley. We have typically concentrated on entrepreneurship, growing our own businesses, and our mission is to diversify the economy of the valley so that we are not so dependent upon tourism, events, and fun and games.
Yeah, give us a ballpark. What % of our business now is directly related to the hospitality industry?
About 25% of all of the jobs in the Coachella Valley are directly in hospitality, and another 25% are in the retail industry that is here to serve people who come here as visitors.
See, now I would have thought the number was higher, frankly. I would have thought that our economy is based 80% on tourism, between hotels, restaurants, shops that serve those hotels and restaurants, people who work at those hotels and restaurants and shops. So the number is really not as high as I thought. Do you think most people would find that surprising?
You have to realize that there are government employees. All of the cities have employees. The school systems have employees. The hospitals have employees. So there's a lot of things that are not visible and in your face all the time, like driving down the road and seeing all the hotels and the restaurants.
So we do have other industry already. Now, you've been a voice sort of in the wilderness for a while now, saying we have to diversify because if something like this happened, we were going to be in serious trouble. Well, it's happened now. What can be done at this late date to try to bring us back, maybe not relying so heavily on hospitality?
Well, let's start out by saying Rome was not built in a day, and our advanced, wonderful hospitality industry wasn't either. We were gifted with sunshine. We're gifted with all of the things that come from being in a place that has sunshine and great weather. It took 75 years to build the current hospitality industry. It's going to take a lot of years to diversify into other things that are going to have that kind of impact. And we've been growing things that are outside, that are diversified for the 8 years I've been here. But we've been growing at 2% per year, while hospitality has been growing at 7%, so that gap continues to get larger and larger.
Right. What are some other industries you think that are suitable for, let's face it, our climate's a little unusual, and that for 4 months of the year, sometimes more, it is really excruciatingly hot, right? I mean, we're fine if you work indoors and you stay at home, but let's face it, we're not spending a lot of time outside in July and August. So what industries would be suitable for this particular climate and the region that we're in?
Well, the best thing that we can go after from an attraction perspective right now, outside of growing our own through entrepreneurship, is to go out and convince people who are telecommuters, who have the ability to work at home, but they're living in Orange County, Los Angeles, the Silicon Valley. They're making the big dollars, but they're spending $4,000 a month on rent. They're commuting long times, 4 miles, 1 hour. I lived in the Bay Area for a while. It's kind of a suffocating lifestyle. You can make a lot of money. You can have a lot of fun. But with the advent of the internet, and that's another situation. We're not completely prepared with bandwidth capacity out here, but some places are. And with the advent of the internet, we can attract people who are telecommuters, that are making great dollars, that are in the technology business world, and hopefully when they get here, they realize that, gee, they'd like to be an entrepreneur, they'd like to do an IPO, they'd like to live that Silicon Valley dream with our lifestyle. That's the best thing we're going to attract. Big business is not coming to California, and it's because of the rules and regulations that we have in place. I get emails every day, oh, Joe, go get us an auto plant. It's not happening, and it's never going to until we get to be business friendly as a state.
Also, the Coachella Valley specifically, it's always harder to bring in new businesses that want a big footprint because we like our natural beauty. There's a fight every time there's a new business that wants to go up. You know, they're talking about football stadiums and arenas in downtown, and it's going to be a big fight to bring in things like that because people like to preserve the natural beauty. Is that going to be a battle that's probably going to be never ending out here?
With some people, it'll be never ending, but it's never ending all over the country. It's just not quite as vocal as it seems to be here.
All right, we got more coming up with Joe Wallace on the other side of the break. We're going to talk about the latest unemployment numbers and how it's impacting us in the Coachella Valley when we come back.
This is an NBC Palm Springs special report. Coronavirus facts, not fear. Presented by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
Continue our conversation now with Joe Wallace from the Coachella Valley Economic Partnership. Joe, the unemployment numbers are going to come out tomorrow or early next week, and most are predicting nationally unemployment to be at 20%. And again, that number is even low because that's just people who are actively looking for work. People who are furloughed are likely saying that they're not looking for work because they're expecting to go back to their jobs. So the number is probably likely closer to 25 to even 30% unemployment, numbers we haven't seen in this country since the Great Depression. Locally, those numbers are even higher. Talk to me about unemployment in the Coachella Valley.
Yes, CVEP conducted a study. We did an employment impact study on what's going on here based on the occupational codes and how hard that they're hit. And we used all national data from the Census Department and Bureau of Labor and Statistics. And our projection was between 30 and 35%, and that was for May. Those numbers don't include things like little one-person shops, two-person shops that are in the entrepreneurial world, who they're really off the grid. They're not included in any of the data. And, you know, number one is I'm sure that our numbers of people who were earning a living by either entrepreneurship or on the job, those are going to be higher than the official unemployment rate, which here is probably in the 30 to 35% range. I wouldn't be surprised if the reality here is getting close to 50%. And that's just the nature of what's happened. I mean, and a lot of those, it's because they're told they can't go to work. You know, our state has decided that we needed to be on a lockdown, and we've had an amazingly obedient population out here. We haven't had any craziness going on, and I'm very pleased and proud of that. But there's a lot of people that just aren't counted, and they're suffering like everybody else that's out of work right now.
How do you compound it, too, with our unusual business cycle in that every business is used to pretty significant drop-off from, say, June through at least the end of September? We're kind of used to that. Now, obviously, it's not as bad as it was when I first moved out here the first time in '85. Literally, this was a ghost town. But it's still a pretty big drop-off. So you combine going into the summer with the last 3 months of what had been the height of the season. How many businesses are ever going to be able to come back from that combination, that 1-2 punch, if you will?
You know, the Hayek Institute has estimated that worldwide 30% of all businesses are going to close, and they're never going to reopen. In our valley, that's a little bit shy of 5,000. We have 15,900 and something registered businesses in the valley. The reality is ours is going to be a little bit higher because it's skewed toward the hospitality and the tourism industry, which is getting hit harder. Our dependence on tourism is 250% higher than the nation's dependency on tourism. So we're going to have more business failures, and you know, a lot of that is people count on making money in the spring. And they all know the summer's slow, so they make $10, they hoard $2 back so they can get through the summer.
Sure.
And they didn't get that spring money this year, so a lot of them are just going to go away. It's a shame.
Yeah, you're talking fully 1/3 of the businesses out here. And here's the other thing, too. Even if we do come back and everything is open fully, or at least as fully as they can be in this COVID-19 world, Coachella's already basically said they're not going to be here in October. They're going to wait till the spring. We're looking at tennis. Now, March is looking dicey unless there's mass vaccinations between now and then. Any of our big events, even things like Splash House and weekend events, any of the big events where crowds are involved may not be possible until this time next year. Is that going to be the death nail for the other 2/3 of hospitality industry businesses?
No, I don't think so. That'll be the death knell for the ones that depend only on big events that are coming to town. We've got a very strong drive market There are people that come out here for weekends. There's people that come out here that they take their vacations. You know, they're living in Los Angeles. They're living within, you know, San Diego or some drive distance from here. That will come back. What's going to be difficult to get back are flights that no longer come here. You know, they won't be able to bring visitors in for that. And the big festivals right now, I mean, I'm comfortable going to a restaurant right now. I can be safe, I can be fine, but I don't think I would want to go out anywhere with 125,000 of my closest friends. But simply because of the way this virus spreads, it would discourage me from doing it. And I'm not interested in going to watch a rock band standing in my 6-foot circle either. So that's going to make it a different decision for people who really enjoy this kind of thing. And as a young person, this was my thing. I loved rock and roll.
Okay. And then, we've been talking a lot of doom and gloom. Joe, you got any nice news, any good news you can part with us or share with us before we wrap things up tonight?
Well, the good news that I've been getting is that there's a bustle of real estate interest, and it's people that are living in these big cities. I think the urban, dense lifestyle has been broken by this. And just like people are leaving New York because of the density, the amount of death they had, the amount of infection they had, people's place of comfort is going to be suburbia. And we're suburbia. We can give that California lifestyle, the dynamics, the virality that comes with California without the four-hour commute that's 20 miles and the hustle and bustle of having to deal with the downtown.
All right. He's Joe Wallace. He's with the Coachella Valley Economic Partnership. He's also the author of what I assume is a best-selling book, Living Outside the Box. We'll be right back after the break. Thanks, Joe.